and hopefully okay. So I believe we're live. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Tuesday morning edition of FMBR. My name is Judy Kitt. I'm the president of FMBR. And for those who are new to us, if you're new to us, I just want to let you know we were founded in 1980. We've been around for 41 years, founded by artists and healers and scientists who were really interested in looking at human consciousness through the lens of science and spirituality and ancient wisdom traditions. So I encourage you to check us out at fmbr.org. And all of our presentations are on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, which is FMBR TV. So we're really honored to welcome back Kosta Makreas to speak with us this morning. Sorry, that's default. Kosta, I was noticing it was 3 years ago that you and Hollis came and presented to us, and we're just really happy to have you back. Kosta has worked in the software consulting industry in Silicon Valley for 40 years. He's an international networker and creative artist working on behalf of harmonious relations between all life forms. He's been a dedicated spiritual activist since his teenage years, and really, we're just so glad to have you here. And welcome. I can't wait to hear what you have to say.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Judy. I want to thank you again and your team and FMBR for the opportunity to visit with you again. Yes, it was 3 years ago that we were happy, my wife and I, Hollis, to make a presentation there in person. How times have changed. I'm glad that we're on Zoom now. So we're back, and again, I'm honored and thankful. There may be people who are already familiar with me and what I do, but in case you're not, and I hope there's a lot of you that aren't, I'm going to do an introduction into who I am, the mission that I've been doing, and lay out my thoughts about where we are today in the world, where we fit, and where I believe that we're going and how we can get there. Overall, I just want to bring some inspiration and hope to people with the information that I'm presenting today, and get them started to explore on their own, and not just take everything I say and think that it's the end all and be all, but this is really my attempt to ignite a little, turn up the pilot light in all of you, bring some more hope, and like I said, urge you to make your own explorations along the lines that I'm laying out here, and maybe new ones. So basically, my full name is Kosta Makreas, and I am the founder of etletstalk.com, the People's Disclosure Movement, and a facilitator for the People's Love Alliance. Today's topic is about the People's Disclosure Movement and the People's Love Alliance. I will give you an overview about each of those, and then drill down a little bit more into to what they are, how they came about, and why I think that they're important right now in today's world. And you'll see the reasons why, and I hope you'll agree. And if any of you have any questions afterwards about some of the things I've said, I'm sure that Judy will be happy to convey those to me, and I'll do my best to answer. I want to say the disclaimers: I don't know everything. I'm experienced in speaking with star people since 2006. So my claim to fame and expertise for those last 15 years centers around that topic. And it's one that's very exciting. It's been a long road getting to it. And it's been a long road since I got on it, and continue on this journey of working at ET Let's Talk. As a summary, ET Let's Talk is a global community. We started in 2012 as the ET Let's Talk community. We have tens and tens of thousands, I think maybe about 150,000 people in this community across the planet. And since 2012, we've been making daily, weekly, monthly contact with our star friends. And I do call them star friends and family, by the way. And we've been doing this on a monthly basis through the Global CE5 initiative, which is a Saturday that I chose around the new moon of every month for the last 10 plus years, where the global community could come together during a time when the sky is dark, because many people like to go out and I guess see the lights, although that's not the total story of communication. But those are still wondrous. I still get excited even after all these years to see my star friends up there responding to us and communicating with us. So the Global CU5 Initiative has been this monthly get together of all the worldwide groups where we join in our imaginations with each other in our network and create a group field. And that's what we've been doing for these many years, building this group field, which is a field of welcome and invitation to the benevolent star civilizations that we know have been visiting us for thousands of years, and more urgently and more voluminously in the last 70 years. And that's only increasing. I will say that just when you think that you or I or a friend of yours or a relation are the only people that are interested in this topic and are able to open your mouths and genuinely talk about your interest and not fear any repercussion, which is a thing, I want to tell you that there are 1.3 billion adults globally on the planet today, according to recent research, who not only believe that intelligent star civilizations exist, but that we should be communicating with them. So at etletstalk.com and through the People's Disclosure Movement, we have been, I guess, at the forefront, along with other groups, of making this contact and of finding each other and realizing that we're a larger, widespread community of believers and knowers than any of us even dreamed. So again, that's 1.3 billion with a B, basically 1 out of 6 or 7 adults on the planet. Now, admittedly, not all of them are pulling out their lawn chairs and sitting under the stars and using meditation and consciousness to connect with our star friends, because half of those people are looking for their next meal the following day. That's just the state of the world that we're in. But that doesn't mean that every now and then someone doesn't look at the stars, looks up and wonders, am I alone? Or believes, no, I'm not alone. I wish they would come here, but got to go feed my family. So can't do much more of it than that. So it falls to the rest of us who've been at this for many years to initiate this human initiated contact with our star friends and do the work of being the first and second waves of humanity making this contact, so that someday as we achieve a better and better world, a lot more humans will be freed from the toil of daily living and be able to join us and actively make the contact too. So that's really what we're all about. Our premise is that we're sure not alone in the universe, and we're not alone on Earth either, because there's so many more of us who are on board now with this than we ever imagined. When I was growing up in the Midwest in the 60s as a young man, and in the 70s, probably more so in the 60s, but still, you could not mention your interest in this topic. Or if you did, you were very guarded and careful about it. And there were good reasons to do that. You were not wrong for doing that, because people were thought crazy. I've known people that were institutionalized back then because they had what we consider a genuine experience with a UFO or a UAP, or lost a job or had a relationship breakup. It just goes on and on. So yes, people had to be careful. But as I look back from those years in the 60s, fast forward many decades now later, my God, what a difference. I'm not saying that in all parts of the world and in all situations you can open your mouth and say, hey, I believe UFOs are real, and I believe we can talk to them and they respond, and they're really conscious beings and they want to help us. You still have to be careful in some places, but the world has opened up a whole lot more. And that's where those 1.3 billion people I talk about are evidence of, through movies, through the media, E.T., Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, the Star Trek series, The Next Generation. All of those have opened up people's minds to the fact and made it kind of normal that there are galactic civilizations and that human beings interact with them. So thank you to all of those who have been wayshowers. And now it's been up to us to make the connections and to use our consciousness and meditation and protocol to make person-to-person connections with these star beings. So that's the big picture. The People's Disclosure Movement and the People's Love Alliance are two sides of the same coin. And what I mean by that is, as I look out on the world right now, and I'm sure a lot of you do too, what you see is a world in crisis in so many ways, sadly. You know, an environmental crisis, wars are still going on, there's economic injustice, there's starvation, there's hunger. It goes on, and it's really easy for many of us to give up hope, to be in despair, especially if you're of the younger generation, you know, who's just coming on, and it's a time in your life when you look forward into the future, like, what will I be? What will I do? And you see all these daunting challenges coming at you. And part of you is wondering, why did the adults before me do all this? You know, why did they lay this on me? Not fair, not fair. And I get it, not fair. But what I want to lay out here, and if I leave you all with nothing else other than just a glimmer of hope and some inspiration, then I'll feel like I've done my job. So the People's Disclosure Movement, I believe, is a movement that, that I believe it, but I know that we're making contact with cosmic beings, many of whom come from civilizations that have no doubt faced challenges like ours. They overcame those challenges, and then they went out among the stars. They're here, they have told us, out of love for us and wanting to mentor and help where they can, and where they will allow us, because they see the same thing we see, which is a world in crisis. However, they bring hope, and they bring joy at connecting with us. They're thrilled by this. And I just want to express that to everyone else, that it's not just us being thrilled by seeing lights in the sky, or maybe having a craft zip over us or something. I mean, there's a million stories like this, but it's two ways. It's reciprocal. They are here to help, and they've told us this in many ways. As they see us in our crisis, want to help us through this time so that we can get to a golden age where they walk openly with us on Earth, and where they can share their incredible inventions, and where we can have a world of free energy, where everyone is fed, everyone is housed, where goodwill and right human relations are established between people, and there's peace in the world, and where human creativity is finally unleashed from having to just survive or look over our shoulder and worry, is someone going to kill me? Am I going to starve? Or, you know, or whatever bad that might happen, to get beyond that and get to a golden age, which is totally possible, where our creativity is unleashed to do things that we can only dream of right now, and do that in concert and as co-creators with our star friends, because that's why they're here. So that's the purpose of the People's Disclosure Movement. And like I said, it's one side of the coin. The other side is the People's Love Alliance. Early on, when I first started communicating with my star friends, and many of us have them, and many of us do communicate. So I'm not saying I'm special, I'm not saying I'm alone, but I'm just telling you my story and what's been real for me. Early on, when I communicated with them at first, one of the first things they said to me was, do not look on us as gods. That has happened before. How's that working for you? You know, human beings, gods, and religion have caused more strife, I think, than probably anything on our planet, or been the basis of it. And I'm not going to get into a rant against religion or whatever. That's not the point. But it's just to say that there's been a misuse of that, as well as a misuse of other institutions, not just religion. And the star people, when they spoke to me, said that they don't want us to make the mistake of going and looking, they're gods, you know. They basically said to me, we are family. Think of us as your elder brothers, sisters, and cousins. And I can work with that. I like that. And when I communicate with them, I feel like they are that family that I never knew I really had. But once I discovered them, I figured out that they'd been on this road of spiritually evolving a little bit longer than I have, maybe. And they have something to teach. They have something they want to share. They have something out of love that they want to bring to me and to all of us, really, so that we can have a better life. They're here to help. So that's one thing I want to let everyone know is they want that message out there. So I want to tell my story about how I got to this, because I find in all the years that I've been networking, everybody that comes to etletstalk.com to become a member or as a member of the People's Disclosure Movement, which is really the biggest umbrella of all the different movements that are making contact. When, by the way, the People's Disclosure Movement, by my latest count, and it's probably a conservative count, has 650,000 people in every country, more than 100 nations, and probably every nation of the world. So these are people who are actively interested, either reading about, making contact, talking about, spreading the news about our contact with our star friends and family. They're not just on the fence or just onlookers. And this number has been growing and will continue to grow. So we are part of that movement, and it's a happy thing. So back to my story, how did I get to here? And believe me, I've heard hundreds of your stories out there, and I encourage all of you to come to etletstalk.com to register, start making posts to tell your stories, because all of us didn't arrive here by accident. There's been something that has shuffled us this way and that way, maybe an encounter, and here we are talking about this topic. I grew up, as I mentioned before, I was born in 1953. So my childhood was in the 60s, my teenagehood in the 60s, and some in the 70s. And at that time, the contactee movement from the late 50s was a thing. There were thousands of people showing up in Southern California at Giant Rock, holding conventions, hearing speeches, writing books. Well, as a young man, I picked up one of those books one day and was immediately smitten. It was written by one of the contactees, and it had pictures that I did not believe were faked of a saucer, the classic shape with the dome and the saucer shape, and a story behind it. And I was immediately captivated because already I had an interest in astronomy, had a telescope out in my backyard in Indiana, looking at the stars and feeling a tug that I belonged out there, that I wanted to go out and explore, that there was a connection to the cosmos. So I felt that through my interest in astronomy. I was interested in science fiction, obviously other worlds and fantasy and science fiction. And in my youth, the NASA program, regardless of what you think of NASA now, and there are divergent opinions about secret space programs and NASA and this and that. But all I'm saying is back in those days, the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs that NASA was conducting captivated the interest and imagination of the whole world. I remember the moon landings. I remember when Apollo 8 circled the moon before the actual landings, et cetera, et cetera. So that was, looking at the stars and wondering about space was just in my DNA. So I picked up that book about UFOs. I was smitten. I read what I could at the time. There was no internet, but I gave it up, put it behind me. I went to university, got a degree in computer science, a minor in mathematics. And then I had a career in the Silicon Valley in California for many years as an independent software consultant. It was a wonderful thing. It was a nice left brain thing to be doing and very lucrative in so many ways. But in 2006, I got on the internet and I wondered, well, what's happened in the UFO field since I was a kid? And I dropped the interest. And it was like drinking from a fire hose. Try doing that. Try putting UFO or UAP in any browser right now, and you should probably get millions of results. Well, back then I discovered a group of people who were doing something new. They were talking about using meditation and consciousness to connect with star beings who are here visiting. That was illuminating. They offered us 6 nights and days of learning how to do this at Mount Shasta. So I took off for that amount of time with a little bit of fear, because Hollywood had put that in there, you know, with all the weird alien movies about how they're coming to eat us, or steal our women, steal our men, steal our cars, you know, whatever, fill in the blanks. So some of that had stuck with me because I loved that stuff as a kid. But here I was getting ready to make contact, and yet I was excited and kind of holding back. Well, I'll tell you what, that week changed my life. I had 3 personal encounters that totally put me on the path to being here today. I'm going to tell you about 2 of them, and I'll try to be brief. During the week, our group of maybe 40 or 50 people would sit out under the stars at the base of the majesty of 14,000 foot Mount Shasta. And we would link heart to heart, mind to mind, and throw up beacons of light and love to our visitors. And that was the basic protocol of raising of our vibration. And we were having success. This was something new. Night after night, I was suddenly seeing zigzagging lights in the sky that no man-made aircraft could replicate. They were flashing back at us as we flashed lights at them in sequence, and many other things. So it was really eye-opening, and it was wonderful. About the 4th or 5th night, after our group had finished for the evening, we'd had a good night of contact. Most of the people went home, got in their cars, drove back to their motels. I believe it was around midnight. 10 of us were left, and we were still standing around talking about that evening. And then somebody tugged on my sleeve and pointed over about 6-8 feet away from me at the edge of the clearing where we were at the base of the mountain there, which was, the clearing was surrounded by forest. What I saw there slowly materializing, and I kind of had to rub my eyes and look at the moon and make sure that this was not a play of shadows. Because one thing we were learning all week was how to identify what we already know. Because once you eliminate what you already know as you go down the list, then what's left is something that probably could be a starcraft. And then if you signal and you communicate with it and it responds, it probably is, because satellites don't do that, airplanes don't do that, et cetera, et cetera. So here I am looking, I'd say about 6 to 8 feet away from me, and slowly dissolving, like a special effect in a movie, was a sphere. I would say it had to be about 3 feet across. It was floating above the ground a couple inches, silently. There was no vibration that I could feel, nothing I could smell. And it was opaque, so I could not see into it. But there it was. Physics said that should not be happening, but myself and the 9 other people gathered there were seeing the same thing, and we were just watching. For half an hour, it floated there. And some people saw different colors. I saw gray, but again, I could not see into it. One of the people remarked to us, "Hey, I just got a telepathic message from the beings that are inside of that thing." And by the way, it's my speculation that we were seeing only part of a larger starcraft that had materialized into our reality that looked like the sphere. But I can't prove that, but I can be sure of what my eyes and the eyes of these other people did see and experience for that half hour. So this other person says, "I just got a telepathic message. They tell me that they are scientists and that they are here on Earth to study the energy systems of human beings." And I thought to myself, boy, that makes sense. You know, they're on a field trip. Someone's doing their PhD research, you know. I know this sounds a little bit flippant, but the fact is they're explorers and researchers. Human beings have done that since human beings were invented. So it made sense to me that what I was looking at was a cosmic version of these explorers and researchers, and they had found us. And and told this gentleman to give us that message. Well, what's interesting is that standing next to me was a woman I'll call Gloria, who I had met there and who was a very good psychic and had become a friend, but she was not moving during this half hour. She was standing straight like this with her arms out, stiff as a board. And I wondered what's going on with her. I didn't want to interrupt it, but I was close by in case she showed any signs of distress. After the half hour, she did get wobbly, and I steadied her and asked her if she knew her name and what had happened. And this is the story she told me. She said that one of the beings from inside that craft had approached her telepathically and asked her if he, she, or it, I don't know, could perform experiments on her energy system. Now, a lot of people I know at that point would have their hair on fire and run for their cars, but that's not what we were about. To her credit, she said, yes, but I have some conditions. This woman really had it together. Not only did she say yes, she says, we're going to negotiate, and here's my terms, right? Otherwise, it ain't going to happen, right? So she had 3 conditions, and the first one was that she stay conscious of what's happening to her as this being merged with her to study her electronics. And the being agreed to that. The second condition was that the being would leave when she said time to go, and the being agreed to that. And the third condition was that there was going to be no messing with the genitals, no probing and all that, off limits. And the being agreed to that. So at the end of that half hour, when she got wobbly, was the point at which she had internally said to the being, I'm done now, go. And it went. And I watched as this floating starcraft, this sphere, slowly just dissolved into the background, just like another special effect. It was then that I realized that the physics that I had been taught and believed in had just been violated, to my mind. That should not have happened. But was I going to believe my lying eyes or stick to the old paradigm of what I thought was true? Well, I chose the latter, and I wanted to teach other people in the world how to do what I had done. Again, I'm nobody special. I'm an organizer, and I was a spiritual activist as a young man involved in political and spiritual activism of different kinds. So it was real natural for me to have the thought at that moment, I want to organize people and teach them to do what I have been taught here to do, and have the kinds of experiences I'm having. This is accessible to everybody. So that's when I became an organizer, and that has led to me being here with etletstalk.com and the People's Disclosure Movement. I had one other experience, and I'm going to try to, on one of the other nights that our group was meditating, you never know how the contact is going to come. It doesn't have to be just lights in the sky. People can get telepathic messages, taps on the shoulder, a shove on the knee when there's nobody there, and so on. Our star friends find different creative ways to connect with us according to what they think we can handle. And I've had all of the above happen to me that I just mentioned. After one night, someone came up to me with a picture, and it had an orb in it. And I said, what is that? And they said, well, some people say they're star beings. Some people say they're interdimensional beings. We're not really sure, but they're showing up in photographs. And I go, that's cool. I want one. So I stood in the clearing there and had my friend take a picture. Nothing showed up for me. I was a little bit disappointed. And then I said, let's try it again. Second go round. This time, just before my friend clicked the shutter, and this was a digital camera, I had a spontaneous thought. And so silently, with love in my heart, I placed my hand over my heart. It's over here, yeah. And silently, I invited any beings of light, off planet or on planet, to join me in the picture. And I just said, I love you. And I expanded my heart energy as I did that. And then I nodded to my friend to click the shutter. And at that moment, I just thrust out my arm like, ta-da, being a little bit flippant. I have a quirky sense of humor. I thought, I got nothing to lose. Ta-da, click, right? So this is the response I got. I'm going to share my screen now. and show you the picture. That's what we got there. A lot of people have said that's dust in the air. Those are dewdrops in the air. This, that, and the other thing. What I will say is, excuse me, before this picture was taken, a group of us who are really scientifically oriented took different pictures trying to fake this, throwing dust up in the air. There was no rain in the air. It was dry. We tried different things, different cameras. We could not reproduce this in this volume, but this is what I got. And later on, when I talked to my spirit guides, and we all have them, and they're kind to me and they talk. Also, they said, yeah, we all showed up from all over so that you can realize you're never alone. They asked me to take a hard copy of this and keep it with me, the picture, so that whenever I felt alone, depressed, demoralized, or whatever, they said, pull it out, take a look at it, and realize you're not alone. And so when new people join the ET Let's Talk community, as part of my welcome to them, I send this picture and I tell this story with the thought that none of us is ever alone. And here's my proof. And in the intervening years, I've seen others like this. So I know other people are making this connection. And yes, I truly believe these are conscious beings that came in response to my I love you invitation. And that's another way, like I said, that contact can be made with star visitors and even interdimensionals and even earth-based visitors. It's all about vibration and the heart and your consciousness and your intention. That's what they all respond to. So the other thing I want to show you as part of the People's Disclosure Movement, over the years, there have been many pictures and videos that have been sent to me. Lots of groups have started on the internet. It's been wonderful to see how this has taken off because, again, everyday people can make contact. And I'm going to show you a video here of a retreat that ET Let's Talk we did in Joshua Tree in Southern California in October of 2017. This is just one little piece of evidence that I just offer just to tickle your imagination. Those of you who maybe are not so much into this topic but are seeing this for the first time. And let me just say, this is just one video of ours. There are thousands of people in our network who've produced things like this and even had more dramatic encounters than this. But the backstory with this is our group of maybe a dozen or more people we were in the desert in Joshua Tree. We were doing night after night of contact and being successful at it. One particular night, after our meditation, in the low western sky above the desert, I looked up and I saw two lights kind of zigzagging and approaching each other. And I thought, well, are those starcraft? Are they satellites? Are they planes? But no, they were on a collision course. These lights just above the horizon were doing that. Before they reached each other, they circled each other like this. I know this doesn't look like a circle, but it does to me here. They circled each other and then they pulled apart, and right like that. And right at that moment, I go, these are not ordinary lights. They're not aircraft. Nobody does that. And they hovered there for a few minutes. By that point, other members of our group saw them, and someone had a camera, and this is what they captured. This is a very short video of the capture of these two craft. Wrong one. I'll get to it.
It should be a little bit below. There you go. Right now. What guide is below? So to the right. Yeah, it should be right about there. I was watching it with the night vision. I'm trying to fumble out my binocs now. Is there anyone who did not see that? Negatory. Oh, okay, good. We finally have a share to that. Yeah. Have a share. That's big. So
Pardon the commercial here, but yeah, this is us at ET Let's Talk. So that concludes the part about the People's Disclosure Movement. Except what I want to leave you with is this: that this movement is all about us, the people, taking our power back. Any of us who've been in the UFO field for any amount of time, we all know about the 7 decades long cover-up that has been done by many governments, much of it by the US government. And for decades, they have told us that we're crazy, etc. Move right along, you didn't see what you saw. We have given our power to them over these decades as we wait for them to make some kind of disclosure announcement. If you've spent any time in this field, then you know that the word disclosure is a big hot button. Everybody, now I won't say everybody, but a lot of people are waiting for disclosure, for an announcement, an official announcement by a president, a premier, a prime minister, somebody to tell them, hey, they're here and we've known about it. How's that working for you? You know, we've made you crazy, we've said you're crazy, we've ruined your careers. Sorry about that, but yeah, you've been right all along. They've been here and we've known it. I'm not waiting for that announcement anymore. I started out that way. And what I urge people who hear this is, it's okay if someone wants to make that announcement, that's great. But we've been waiting for years for that to happen. And just recently, the Director of National Intelligence released this report, June 25th, where a lot of people were waiting for disclosure. Turned out, in my mind, in my opinion, a nothing burger. They basically said in that report, yeah, there's something out there. There is. We don't know what it is, which is an improvement a little bit, incrementally, over what was previously said, which was, no, there's nothing out there. You all are crazy. It doesn't exist. It's wrong. It's not there. So now it's there, but we don't know what it is. Well, thank you very much, folks, for doing that. The thousands of people in our community who've taken their power back and used human-initiated contact protocol to make their own contact have done disclosure. My star friends tell me that in 2019, we actually did achieve a people's disclosure. And we're in the process now, as more and more of us are coming to this movement, to just expanding it until someday it will reach a point where it will be safe for our star friends to be on Earth and walk with us and work with us, which is not safe right now. But we're creating the momentum. We're part of that wave doing that. So I urge people, take your power back. Let's get off of our knees, praying and waiting for that disclosure announcement to come. Instead, grab your lawn chair or whatever, go out under the stars or even within your living room, and make your own contact and teach someone else how to do that. Because organically, that's how we've grown. That's how we have 650,000 people in the People's Disclosure Movement. We, the people, have made this disclosure. We've gone from being just believers. Now we've transformed into being knowers. There's nothing more powerful than being a knower, to know what you know, see, believe what you saw, and then teach someone else to do that. So that's what the People's Disclosure Movement is about, taking back our power to disclose, because we can trust each other a whole lot more and share. And that's what we've been doing in our ET Let's Talk community. And that's why I invite people, those of you out there, come join there. It's free membership, etletstalk.com. We support each other. We tell our stories. Not everything we see is from space, but a lot of what we see is, and that's how we've been growing as a community. And we're building that wave right now with momentum that will eventually bring our star friends to Earth with us. And then that'll begin the next phase. But for right now, yes, come join. Now, the other thing I want to talk about now is the People's Love Alliance, which, as I mentioned, is the other side of the coin. Why is that important, and what is that? The Love Alliance is really about us human beings learning how to get along with each other. Part of the reason that our star friends cannot approach us right now en masse is because we're too busy killing each other over differences in skin color or in eyes or in the way we dress. So while humans are too busy doing that, how are they going to be accepting and tolerant of some of these star races that have different colored skin, or maybe an extra appendage or an extra eye or a different shaped head? That's a big question mark. There are a lot of people who are open-minded, who are accepting of that, and there are a lot who are not. So in my opinion, the time is not yet, but we human beings have a lot of work to do in the meanwhile. We have all these crises, and the way to solve them is just to establish goodwill and right human relations through love for each other. As our star friends said early on, they're not gods. They're not going to come here and wave some magic wand and fix things for us. We are going to have to find our own way. They are there as mentors, in the same way that if you've got a problem about getting along with someone or you need some therapy, you can turn to someone that you trust, who has more knowledge, more experience than you. And that's the mode that our star friends are in. They've offered themselves as mentors to us if we reach out and make our telepathic connection. Many people I know have. People have achieved healings, physical healings, emotional healings from interactions with star visitors. So this is really a thing. It's not just theory. And the People's Love Alliance is the largest collection of human beings creating a better future, the positive transformation of our planet that has ever been before seen in our world. In the same way that the People's Disclosure Movement is the largest, most widespread human-initiated movement to contact our star friends that the world has ever seen. The People's Love Alliance is us getting it right, and we will get it right. I'm a cautious optimist. Why do I say that? Well, tell you what, if you listen to most of the major mainstream media, all you see are fire, earthquakes, tornadoes, wars, pestilence, hunger, people beating each other up. And then they end maybe with a positive story in the last few minutes. Really what they should do is flip that around. Give us 5 minutes of bad news, and how about give us 25 minutes during a half hour of really good news? Because my premise, not just premise, what I've seen is that millions, hundreds of millions of people are busy creating the positive new world we want, but the mass media is not reflecting their presence or their activity. So it's up to the rest of us to educate each other. And in that way, the internet is a real great way, if you want to know or know how to go searching for places where there's positive news and where you can see actual evidence of human beings behaving well. And so what I want to bring to you now is some of that evidence that there is a spiritual, and I use spiritual in terms of the widest sense of just love for all beings, not a member of any denomination or any religion, but there is a spiritual renaissance going on the planet. And that is where a lot of hope and inspiration resides. We are not alone. We need to know about this renaissance. Let's look for the evidence. There's something called the Global Awakening Tracker. It's a website that my friend Zenka Caro has created. And I'm going to show you their introductory short film where they are tracking and quantifying with graphs and statistics the good, the G-O-O-D, that's going on in the world that can make you feel better, that that all is not lost. So the Global Awakening Tracker is about to come up. Here we go. And here's their introductory video.
Welcome. We're glad you're here. The Global Awakening Tracker is like NASA's mission control, except instead of rockets, we're measuring the expansion of consciousness on the planet. One by one, we're coming together to choose a connected, healed, and heart-centered world with big potential. If you've ever felt alone before, there's no need now. Hundreds of millions are creating a global renaissance in their lives and our world at large. The many are leading the many. We're currently tracking hundreds of organizations and influencers across Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube to see how our combined networks of over 178 million people grow day by day over time. We want to know who you want to track so we can expand our lists and map our best resources. The second area of trackers allows you to see our collective consciousness through our search terms, Reddit groups, and even a global network of random number generators which aim to measure coherence and unity in our massive collective field. The other area of trackers explain how the sun and other space weather conditions influence our moods, pineal glands, and society at large. Believe it or not, we're experiencing an apathetic time in society. But in 4 years, we'll hit a peak of activity. On one side, we'll choose conflict, and on the other side, we'll choose renaissance. Join us as we measure a new narrative. It's one of purpose, healing, interconnection, and synchronicities which light the way. Welcome. We hope you enjoy watching our collective pulse, and we hope to inspire you to participate alongside of us by adding a name to our list.
That has inspired me. They have produced, like I said, graphs which track people's search terms, for example, on browsers, in order to see how interest in certain topics in certain areas is increasing over time. I have a couple of those graphs here. They are by no means representative of everything that the Global Awakening Tracker has. They're just a few small examples of them quantifying what I consider to be good news. Let's see, here we are. There is, let me open that up. This is a search term, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is kind of replacing UFO. What you see is a spike here in interest in this particular graph. And the graph timeline represents, looks like about a year. And for some reason in May of 2021, there was a spike here. Now, this is just a very short-term example of what can happen. Maybe a certain movie came out or something that caused people to start searching for it more. I'm going to show you some more longer-term graphs here, tracking other terms. People who've searched for what is spiritual awakening on this graph, which starts in 2004, so it represents the last at least 15 years to 2019, actually beyond, probably to the end there, 2021. But as you can see here, what is spiritual awakening as a search term? You know, it has its ups and downs, etc. But for some reason, in the last 2-ish years, you see a rise here in people Googling for that term. I don't have the knowledge right now as to why that is, but these kinds of graphs just show that people are doing that, and you can quantify it, you can measure it. Also, that particular term is mirrored by this, which is not the term what is spiritual awakening, but just spiritual awakening. You know, when you do keywords and stuff, you can mix and match them in different ways. But spiritual awakening also shows that in the since January 1 here, 2014, you see a rise in just the term or the phrase spiritual awakening all the way to the end of the graph here, which is closer to 2020, 2021. So this is what interests me, is this part here. That's, again, more evidence that for some reason that I don't know, but maybe the people there, maybe Zenka and her team can offer evidence of why they think people are searching for that more. What has happened in the world to cause that? All in all, it's good news. And finally, here's an interesting one for the topic of UFOs: star seeds. There are a lot of people who believe that they are star seeds. And here you see at the end of this graph, for this particular starseed search term, there's a rise just in the last, looks like about since 2017 or so. More people are searching for that. Again, we don't know why, but where your search terms goes shows where your consciousness is. So there's an interest out there. And this all goes to what I'm talking about, which is the spiritual renaissance that is going on. This is more proof that people are opening up to wider things and breaking out of the boxes that they've been in. So another piece of information is my star friends have told me that just in the last year or two, by their count, and again, you don't have to believe this, I tell people, go to your own higher source of information, whatever that is, and believe what you get for yourself. Don't be so much a follower as become a leader. So when I'm giving you all this information, you don't have to believe any of it because it comes from me or from this presentation, but take it within for yourself and see if it resonates with you. And if it doesn't, well, walk away. If it does, send me a hello, find someone else and join a group and start making the world better. Because this is all positive news I'm trying to convey to all of you, that the world is getting better because there's hundreds of millions of us. Actually, there's 1 billion of us. That's what my star friends said. 1 billion human beings today have opened their hearts just enough. I'm not saying everybody's a Mother Teresa. I'm certainly not. But enough human beings, 1 billion of them, have their hearts open enough that they can see the vision and they can want a better world, something more positive than what they see around them now. And that's how it starts. Like I said, not everybody is a Mother Teresa, but you start your journey somewhere. And at some point you become dissatisfied with what you see and you go, there's got to be a better way. And I'm here to tell you that the opening of their heart is telling them and telling us that love is the better way. And all these people will find or are finding some way to express that love to make the world better. It's 100 million acts of kindness every day. Again, not everybody does a huge project that changes the world all of a sudden. We do in our millions good acts, good deeds, good thoughts every day. And the more consciously we do them, the more power they have. And all those add up in their aggregate. And that's why I'm seeing, and I'm optimistic about the fact that we are building a new world, despite what the mass media is showing us. So I want to show you examples of just a few more groups, and then I will conclude. And I thank you for sticking with me so far. There's a lot of information here, but I really want you all to walk away with a feeling, not a feeling, but a knowing that there's ways that we have quantified here, things that are happening that are cool. We have pictures and videos of us making contact with our cosmic friends, and we have evidence here that I'm going to continue to show of human beings getting it together, behaving better, and creating a more positive future. It has been said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's exactly what the People's Love Alliance is about, to creating it. There's a group called avaz.org, and these people are amazing. They were formed in 2007. They're more evidence of human beings who are transcending national boundaries, cultural boundaries, to work together as the one humanity. Avaz, A-V-A-A-Z, means voice in several languages. So this is the people's voice, the avaz.org movement. And I'm just going to show you their homepage to get you started. There they are. Avaz, for the last 14 years, has its members pick campaigns in whatever country. They may be campaigns to bring water to a village, to stop the destruction by corporations of Amazon forests, a lot of things. The Avaz community comes together. If someone shows that there's a problem in their country, they announce it here and they start a petition, and millions of people come to them to help them. Avaz is powered by lots of donations. They don't take corporate money or advertise or anything. It's money from their members. So the money they use to create advertisements, billboards, to reach politicians, to change their minds, to shame those who need to be shamed for bad activities, to conduct campaigns that benefit all of humanity, even though they may be going on in the moment in a certain country. In the next moment, they may be a campaign in another country. So this is humanity, the one humanity helping themselves across all these borders. If you look over here where I'm circling, Avaz has, let's call it 69 million members, basically in every country of the world. That's a lot of people. I've watched them grow over the years. When they had one member, I joined originally, and I'm just a member. I don't know the people, but I've been publicizing and promoting what they do because they are an example here of humans helping humans, and you won't hear about them on the evening news. You know, I guess it's not exciting to hear about 69 million people who will help each other at the drop of a hat, no matter what's going on, you know, in their countries. For example, here are some of the campaigns: Stand with the Earth Defenders, Power the Climate Lawsuit of the Century, Let's Protect Women at Work. As you know, that's a problem all across the planet. It's not an American problem or a German problem or whatever. And the Spiral of Violence. They do get into political things. And for example, Facebook, which is, has been taking its wallops lately. They have some campaign against some issue they have there as well. There are lots of issues. Like I said, they've been involved for many years, and they're just vibrant. And actually, you can see here as new members are joining in this area, it's just kind of cool with a flag here that represents what country someone just joined from. Someone leaves a message, and it's just wonderful just to watch it growing organically and get and understand that this is happening all over the world. This is really a global community. There's also something called the New Group of World Servers and Men and Women of Goodwill. These are groups that are using tolerance, love, which is goodwill, which is love in action, because they have felt and gotten some kind of a spiritual calling. Sometimes they're aware of what's behind it. Sometimes they just want to do good, and their heart opens and they do something wonderful. They're called the New Group of World Servers and Men and Women of Goodwill. The Men and Women of Goodwill is self-explanatory. Goodwill, again, is love in action. There are, by my count, or what I've been given, about 100 million of people who are actively using goodwill, and anybody can do that. It's just an intention and a choice to change a situation by goodwill and standing back from criticizing and destroying, and instead building through love and sustained goodwill. Again, 100 million people there, and the website that I want to highlight there is, let's see if I can bring it up here. I may have lost it. I know what I've got. It's not the website, it's just the homepage here. It's the Lucis Trust, which has promoted the Men and Women of Goodwill and New Group of World Servers for almost a century now. I urge you to go and learn more about techniques of goodwill and how to use meditation, etc., to create a better world, to bring about, as it says here, a plan of love and light. which is working out on the planet right now. And that's what the People's Love Alliance is about. So that's Lucis Trust. And I created a Facebook group called Good News Every Day, which features good news. The members make posts of good news that they find which reflect acts of human kindness, generosity, and love that we need to hear about. With my morning coffee, I go to my group every day and look for the posts that are there so that I can read about something wonderful. It's my nutrition, along with breakfast, which feeds my physical body. I look at the good news site and read about something wonderful happening. It just gets my day going a whole lot better. It's nourishment for the soul. And this is the Facebook page there. Good news every day. Celebrate, create, find, and share good news all around the world. We are not the only good news group. There are many others that are doing this. This was just my attempt, along with my friends, to do our own version of it. And we have 2,500 members now. And every day people are posting good news from all over the world about marvelous new inventions, about cleaning up the oceans, getting rid of plastic, about solving crises between groups of people. And it goes on, from the largest kind of campaigns to the smallest acts of human kindness. It doesn't matter if it's kindness and compassion and love. A post here in this group makes somebody's day. So that's that. There's also the cultural creatives, and I'm going to see if I'm not sure if I may have to stop sharing here so that I can get a full. This is the book that was written in the late 90s, How 50 Million People Are Changing the World. Paul Ray and Sherry Ruth Anderson studied what values cultural creatives have. And those are the values of sustainability, of tolerance, spirituality, loving the environment, and on and on, people getting along with each other. This group really began forming in the 60s and has now grown to not only 50 million people, which they say at the time when they wrote this, that may have been true, but the later counts are now, let's see, we have, I think 350 million. Yeah, 350 million in the United States and the European Union. I do not know about other parts of the world because I didn't see the research about those, but still, again, that's tens and tens of millions of people, cultural creatives. It's a pretty phrase, and it kind of brings a picture to your mind of people creating new cultures, a new way of being, to replace, the old materialism and infighting and strife and all that kind of stuff. So those are the cultural creatives. I recommend you get that book. I think it's still in print. I should have checked that. But the other book is Blessed Unrest by Paul Hawken. If you've ever been into garden tools in the US, you've heard of Smith and Hawken. He's the Hawken of Smith and Hawken, who made a fortune and a name for themselves, providing gardening tools and other things to people. Well, on top of that, Paul Hawken gave a lot of lectures all over the world about sustainability and the good that there is in the world. And he discovered that after every lecture, a bunch of people would come up with him. They'd give him their card and say, here's what my group is doing in Tasmania to bring water to a village. Here's what my group is doing. I founded this nonprofit to do this. After a while, he collected so many cards, he actually created a website, which actually is not around anymore. But what there is this book where he talks about how there are 2 million non-governmental organizations, NGOs, who are in one way or another, in one area of human endeavor or another, in one area of the world or another, doing wonderful projects to make the world a better place. And he chronicled them and talks about them at length in this book. So again, here's an example of 2 million organizations which represent, through their membership, probably hundreds of millions of people. Another example of huge groups of human beings who are working without fanfare in the mass news, but still the work is getting done. And that's what's important. Now, given all the groups that I've mentioned, of course, there's some overlap between one and another. That's to be expected. But what I want to leave you with is just the knowledge that you can quantify in so many ways that there are way more, many of us than just ourselves and 10 of our friends who are at work every day, brick by brick, building a new foundation for this planet, a golden age. And we're going to succeed because I really believe the spiritual tide of evolution is with us. So that's pretty much going to conclude what I wanted to present to you, the People's Disclosure Movement, the People's Love Alliance. It's good news for all of us. I hope that you've taken it to heart. And I hope that if you're not already active, that you'll search some of this information and expand it on your own. I could only present you with just a little bit that I have found in the short amount of time we have, but I'm hoping that it jumpstarts people and gives you a little spark of hope because it's what keeps me going every morning, despite what else is going on. So I thank everybody for your attention, for staying with me, and for your open hearts and accepting this material. Take care.
Thank you so much. That was just really wonderful, Kosta. And we have a number of questions that have come in if you're open to answering them.
Sure.
The first one that came in was just from an anonymous poster that said, if these star people are so friendly, why have they not been more helpful? Which I think you've answered a bit, but doesn't it have to do with kind of evolving our own consciousness? Like you said, I mean, we're killing each other, and part of our evolution is to learn how not to do that, right?
Well, that's
and
true.
Have them save us.
They're not going to solve our problems. I mean, any of us who've been parents, when your kids are misbehaving, you may step in and teach them how to get along with each other. You're not going to do it for them. You cannot do their growth for them. But you can teach and be there as a guide. At least that's my philosophy of parenthood. I don't know how well I did, but my kids are still talking to me, so I must have done something right. But yeah, they look at us as family, as younger members, and they want to extend a helping hand or whatever they've got, an extension. They have their hearts. I will say too, though, they've been held back. Those of you who are Star Trek fans have known about the Prime Directive, which is when an advanced civilization, in this case in space, because it came from the Star Trek series, when an advanced civilization encounters one that's not so advanced, you don't interfere because, again, you want them to go through their own growth. Unfortunately, sometimes they may destroy each other because while you're not interfering and have to watch that. I know that this Prime Directive has been something that our star friends have been operating under, which is they were only allowed to prevent nuclear war. And there are many examples of their ships coming down and making their presence known at nuclear sites. There are probably many untold stories of when a button was nearly pushed, they intervened. I do have some stories of that, and the many more that are untold. So with the exception of averting a nuclear war, they were given permission to do that. They were supposed to be hands off, pretty much, but that changed in 2019. My star friends tell me, and again, you don't have to believe this, take it into your own self, see if it resonates. But my star friends told me that in 2019, the Prime Directive was removed. They are now able, with our request, they're not just going to start some project. With our request, they still need the human free will. With our request to help with the problems that we as human beings may not be able to solve. Getting along with our neighbors is certainly within our ability to solve, as are many other problems. There may be like a climate crisis that is just too big for human beings at this point to do anything about, although we can make contributions. I'm just giving that as an example. that may be the kind of thing where with our request, they may be able to step in to do something. Then again, that's just one example. But the prime directive's been removed. And I'm sure that they are wise enough that if my request were to be, I don't like that group of people because they don't believe politically like I do. Could you guys send down a laser beam and just kind of snuff them for me? I requested it. Prime directive gone. I doubt if they're going to do that. I truly know that we are dealing with spiritually evolved civilizations that have gotten beyond that kind of mode of solving problems. So I'm not saying that this is just an open field, but really, if in your heart you see some kind of problem that is affecting all of humanity, that as we as human beings would all benefit, a rising tide lifting all our boats, and it's not being addressed or not being done well, that's the kind of request I would put forward to our star friends and say, hey, can you give us some help here? I may never know how that comes, but I'm making the request. I don't know if I answered the question or not. But
yeah, no, that's great. Daryl wants to know that if ETs can surround you in orb form, why would they bother with using craft of any kind?
They may not be, there may be many races, some of which may not have evolved to the point where they don't need craft. It's a really freaking huge universe. There are many species here, and just as on Earth, there are societies that have transportation means, fast cars versus donkey carts. There are star civilizations that are at different levels of advancement. So some of them can travel in consciousness. In fact, one time during one of our contact protocols, my wife Hollis was telepathically, actually she was shown images from some of her ET friends where they merged in their consciousness and they became one body and one organism, and they shared one biology. And all they had to do, as they showed her internally, was think of where they wanted to go, their destination, and they would transcend space and time and do that. Okay, that's science fiction stuff, I know, but there that was. She saw that visualization, it was cool. And then when they got to their destination, they would split apart into individual entities. So there may be civilizations that have evolved to that, and others need the craft. That's all I can say. It's diverse, and it's a continuum.
I have a question from YouTube. What do you think of the Space Force and our propensity or desire to weaponize space?
I think it's terrible. Haven't we weaponized enough? And yeah, we know that with Star Wars, Reagan started that a long time ago, and we really don't know the totality of what's up there already. But in general, no, it's a bad thing. Whether they're aiming those weapons they're putting up there, whether they're aiming them out, thinking they're protecting the Earth from technologies that are far advanced than theirs, or whether they're aiming them at us, it doesn't matter. They shouldn't be there. I'm not wise enough to know or informed enough to know the totality of what's there, but that's just my opinion. It's not my area of expertise, that the weaponization, but is it going on? Has it gone on? Yes, it has. And will they do more of it if they can? Yes, they will. That's one of those areas where and maybe I will do this, is make a request of my star friends, help us with that problem. Sitting in our living rooms, there's not much we can do to get rid of those, but there may be some help that we can get from star civilizations that is beyond our ken to do. So that's just something that comes to mind off the top of my head as a request. I don't know, did I answer that question?
Yes. Who removed the prime directive?
I'm trying to find out. That's a great question.
Yeah.
I will ask that. That's an excellent question.
Yeah, so there are a lot, of course, there are so many views about this, and so many there was a question about some problematic people behind a vase. So there are these questions about, who's funding what. And there's a question here about who's funding the spiritual awakening, the global awakening tracker.
I don't know.
Yeah.
They can go to the contact form on there and ask.
Yeah.
And it befuddles me, like, why are you all so paranoid out there? It's a global awakening tracker, folks. It's just relaying information. You can go and submit the name of anybody you want. If you don't agree with the names of the leaders that they're following, just the other day I made a submission of someone I thought, see if they'll take it up. So if there's paranoia there about who's funding it, get over yourselves, quit it. This is good news. And anything good that comes in our world at this time, there will be regressive forces at work to besmirch the reputation and to take offline and off track the good that people are doing. So far, I've seen nothing but good from the Global Awakening Tracker. It's producing information that lifts me and other people and gives us some hope. Are there people out there that probably are trying to besmirch their name? I'm sure there are. Same thing with the Vaz. I've watched them since 2007, and I'm sure they're being attacked by people who don't want to see progress. Those are regressive forces again. And they're funded by donations from everyday people. And they also publish every year, they publish their financials, what they provide the IRS, et cetera. Actually, I think they maybe have been formed in Canada, but whatever. They do publish because they understand that transparency is important. So again, I ask, for those of you who are so conspiracy minded that you just can't handle good news, get over yourselves. And I know that's kind of harsh, but not everything that is good out there has an ulterior motive and is really being funded by George Soros or Bill Gates or anybody else. There are a lot of great people being funded with good money from all of us that really are our hope, and they're doing the work that we can't do. So let's support them, and let's ignore all the character assassinations that come their way. They don't deserve it.
Jerry wants to ask a question. Jerry, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, it's maybe a comment. You're talking a little bit about the Space Force and things of that nature. And I've been reading the Raw Contact Law of One books pretty religiously just to understand it all. And there's interesting stuff in there with regard to, and this is back in the 1980s when they had that information that Carla Ruckert channeled the raw social memory complex. But they're saying in some of the notes there they gave, the Space Force has been around for a long time, and that at least with regard to the governments of the world and the governments of the US, one question was, how many spacecrafts does the US have? And that was back in the 1980s. And these are stuff that they learned from the Roswell crash, things of that nature. And they're talking about numbers of around 500, 600 back in the 80s in terms of it. So I think that if this material is right, the Space Force has been around for a long time, and they're all over the place, except that it's just a small group of folks who are knowledgeable about it. And the group, and I guess another question was, how many persons are knowledgeable about this? And the number was pretty small, basically. But there's a group in the hundreds back in the 80s that were knowledgeable about all this stuff that was going on. So, and it's also interesting to understand in that raw contact the two types of aliens. They talk about the Orion group, which is service for self versus service to others. And that group is relatively small relative to the group that would be service to others. And usually the ratio is about 10% of people or of entities service to others, service to self versus service to others. So just thought I'd mention that because it's an interesting channeling information that is there. And I think the law of one matches what I've been talking about in the I am, because when you translate that I am, who we all are, it translates into the law of one, basically, that we are, in fact, developing into a social memory complex. And that's how we need to develop to have that consciousness that is now transcends the way people think in terms of all the things that you're talking about, Kosta, which is marvelous. And I appreciate what you're saying. So I'll stop.
Thank you, Jerry. What I want to comment on is, I mean, thank you for the information. I want to underscore, I am not an expert in the area of the Space Force. I've not spent the time to research it. I learned from people like you who have done deeper dives at times, and that's good. And I don't believe everything I hear either, especially in the areas where I'm more expert in my life. I have to still be discriminating or discerning, as well as in areas where I don't know as much about things. So I appreciate you bringing that forward. Again, it's not my area of expertise, even though I have an opinion, which I basically said was, we shouldn't be doing that. A Space Force, building that from the 80s, using trillions of dollars of our taxpayer money, hiding it from us, threatening other nations, threatening us, making us believe that all ETs are bad, not maybe 10%. All the stuff they've been up to by creating a Space Force and keeping it hidden is just all wrong. And someday that secrecy will be lifted completely and people will know the truth. In the same way that they've covered up the truth for 70 years about all the civilizations visiting us, UFOs and UAPs. So yeah, there have been cover-ups, and there's still stuff that we're finding out about slowly. But I ask people to use discernment, triangulate if you can to get different opinions or sources of information.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Yeah, that seems to be really kind of up. There's so much information about this, and there's so much speculation, and there's what people's experiences are, and it really is important to go inward and connect with your highest, your highest self or your highest guidance, and stay in love, right? Stay in that frequency of love. Because as we talked about yesterday, there's this old paradigm of us versus them, which has been on the planet for so long. And I think so many of us are trying to move into an awareness of our unity. It's all us, right? And if we keep perpetuating narratives of those people out there are trying to get us, we're just kind of perpetuating the old. So yeah, I'm with you. Stick with the good, stick with the love, and move forward.
Well, we were talking yesterday, you and I, about fear versus love. And though it may sound really simplistic, when you peel away things that are going on, either people are acting out of fear these days or out of love. And as you say, a lot of us are choosing the love. It's not easy. It's not the easy path. I think it's easier to be afraid of something because you can contain it, and
well, it's more familiar, right?
It's more familiar, yeah. But accepting that we are all one and acting out of that is a real challenge, and that's what's before us. And that's why I talked about using goodwill, which is love in action, as a means to get there. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the time. Let's I want to remind everybody that this is being recorded. It'll be available on YouTube. You can always go back to it to find the links. But can you tell us one more time the It's etletstalk.com.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
And
It's
the People's Love Alliance.
Pardon?
The People's Love Alliance, is there also a web page for that?
It's all rolled into etletstalk.com. So if you come to etletstalk.com, like I said, membership is free. You will be on the mailing lists for People's Disclosure Movement, People's Love Alliance. And that's because, like I said, it's one coin and two sides. So they're really integrated movements. One will not succeed without the other. So just coming to etletstalk.com, getting on the mailing list, and you'll be able also to see our monthly get-togethers virtually in our brains and with our imaginations are represented on a map. So it's really nice. I send out emails showing all the teams around the planet with places on the map, and you can mouse over them and get contact information to find someone near you. So the website and being on the mailing list offers the ability for you to find other community around you of people who are doing this. And that's what it's about. Our focus is on community, and that's what we're all experts in. Learning about each other, sharing our stories, finding the truth. And it's an experiential community. I don't think any one of us has the whole truth. It would be ridiculous to say that, or to say that we are the way, we are the only ones that the ETs are talking to. Run the other way with your hair on fire for people who are saying they're the chosen ones.
Right.
This is a group mission. ET Let's Talk, the People's Disclosure Movement, People's Love Alliance are group missions. It's the Aquarian age, the age of the group, and we will move forward as a group, not as a cult around a person or a single leader, of which that's going on in ufology, unfortunately. But let's keep in mind the People's Disclosure Movement. This is ours.
Love it. Love it. I have a number of comments from YouTube saying just thank you for this refreshing, positive view on the subject. And people saying they're joining. So, and it's also nice to see that there are so many people interested in moving forward in a positive, love-based way. So thank you. Thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. Thank you for being here this morning, and thank everybody for joining. And think we'll end it here and have a great rest of your week. Thanks, Kosta.
Thank you for the opportunity. Mwah, to everybody.